Hello, my name is Erik Wallace, and I'm with Comtech Mission Critical Technologies. Today I'd like to discuss workforce development at scale. CYBRScore noted that the cybersecurity workforce gap is now at 4 million professionals worldwide as of their November 2019 report. In addition, if we look at stats from ISACA, they also reflect this growing gap, noting 62% say their cybersecurity teams are understaffed, 57% have unfilled cybersecurity open positions, and 38% say it takes 6 months or more to fill cybersecurity jobs at their organization. In early 2018, Comtech started discussions with several groups in the US government that were experiencing similar issues. First was speed to hire, with 10 months being a typical time frame. Second, the hire would make it through the process, but didn't have the requisite skills that they claimed once they actually made it into the job, resulting in hiring org losing almost a staff year in the process. At this time, the President's management agenda suggested 3 gears: tech, data, and workforce for improvement within the government. Those components led Comtech and the US government to the Federal Cyber Reskilling Academy and looking for ways to reskill and upskill at scale. Comtech provides information security around the world, from cybersecurity training to satellite communications and mission-critical technologies on the ground. Comtech draws capability and experience from the Comtech family of companies to deliver best-in-class solutions that meet customer requirements. Comtech Mission Critical Technologies is a trusted provider of command, control computers, communications, cyber intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, also known as C5ISR solutions, that military, government, and commercial organizations need to enable seamless, highly secure communications between fixed, remote, and mobile operations under conditions that demand the highest level of reliability, availability, and security. The Cyber Solutions team within Comtech MCT led Cohort 2 of the Federal Cyber Reskilling Academy in July of 2019 for the Executive Office of the President and the Office of Management and Budget. Today we'll discuss workforce development at scale by reviewing some components of that academy that we completed last September with the US government. The Federal Cyber Reskilling Academy is an innovative training program used to develop new cyber professionals that can move into hard-to-fill US government jobs. This cohort was focused on the cyber defense analyst work role. The FCRA is a US government initiative to reskill members of the current federal workforce per the President's management agenda and a recent executive order on America's cybersecurity workforce. The Academy was a collaboration between the Office of Management and Budget and the CIO Council. Cohort 2 was led by Comtech CYBRScore and the Marcom Group. This cohort was open to any US government employee with or without past IT experience. Those employees with past IT or cyber experience were allowed to apply. The cohort goal was to find cybersecurity talent and upskill or reskill that talent within the current workforce. Train talent to a minimum of an apprenticeship level, and ideally these folks would find a detail or a job within the federal government in the new work role. As part of the Federal Cyber Reskilling Academy program, Comtech provided the following components of the Academy: Cohort Selection guidance, which involves sourcing and the evaluation of up to 1,000 candidates into a training cohort. Training, where we provided development of a hands-on training plan aligned to the team that we were looking to build, in this case, cyber defense analysts. Program and student evaluation, where we tracked student progress and ensured that they were staying engaged and on track. Following cohort selection, Comtech provided 2 weeks of training followed by a week of self-study. The first 2 weeks of the program were for those with limited IT backgrounds to provide them with Linux, Windows, and networking fundamentals needed to succeed in the remainder of the course. Each week had about 25 to 30 hours of hands-on lab time or about 200 hours overall lab time anticipated for the student at the completion of the cohort. To evaluate students as they progressed, many of the labs within the course were scored, as well as providing capstones at the end of each training session. In addition, students were administered a CYBRScore performance-based assessment at the end of week 2 and again in week 11. As we move through the cohort selection, we identified 750 applicants that applied. We were prepared for up to 1,000. 20 positions were available within the cohort, and applicants applied via online process and were provided links to 2 assessments. Each assessment took 20 to 30 minutes to complete and were required for evaluation in the cohort. We provided a 2-week application window for each of the applicants to complete that process. Cyber Aptitude and Attitude data was provided to the government. They used this to down select from 750 to around 50 candidates, and then combine this with other candidate data like their resume, personal statements, interviews to drive their final selection. The U.S. government had access to additional demographic data that they used in cohort selection as well, and the final cohort represented 9 agencies and the Department of Defense. We want to look at cyber aptitude and cyber attitude. Aptitude being the potential to perform a task given maximum training and opportunity. Attitude being the way of thinking or feeling about someone or something that is reflected in a person's behavior. Lots of existing tools measure both aptitude and attitude. We chose a set of tools that were already built with past performance and a good mix of aptitude, attitude, and career interest. Automation is critical to ensure timely turnaround and the ability to scale. These are a few of the 42 characteristic data points that we used within the evaluation of the cohort. A few of them are shown in terms of makeup of the aptitude and attitude of the individuals that we measured. Things that we were looking for: do they like to work alone or in groups? Do they like to have discussions, or are they persuasive and potentially argumentative? Are they intuitive or facts-based? Do they follow rules? Will they follow a mop or a playbook? Depending on the work role, these can be weighted to apply more emphasis associated with the specific criteria that we're looking for that work role. An example of this in the cyber defense analyst work role is repetitive actions. This slide shows a view of a PCAP file. For the cyber defense analyst, not only will this be something that they will look at and learn to love, they'll look at this every day, maybe hundreds of times a day in various forms and formats. The requirement for repetitive work in this role is high, and a successful candidate should have this as a core attitude or trait. They may be successful without it, but they may not be happy in the job role long term. Secondly, is the data set that we're capturing applicable to the work role? Whether that be a cyber defense analyst, a pen tester, forensics analyst, or a risk manager. How is that data applicable, and what are the optimal values? This is something that we focus on with SMEs within our group, as well as psychometrician validation. Based on the SME guidance, we can then start to look at optimal versus measured views of that data set and weight those attributes that we care about for that specific role. Scoring should be used as a guide, and it's very important that the selection process is automated to allow this work to happen at scale. This graphic shows the aptitude, attitude, and overall scoring data for the FCRA cohort. The blue dots represent aptitude, and the orange dots attitude. We have highlighted the dots for one specific candidate. This individual may have been able to successfully complete the course aptitude-wise, but they would not have done well psychometrically long-term in the work role based on their attitude. Taking a look at the program again, let's move from the selection criteria into a brief view of the training provided. Following cohort selection, Comtech provided 2 weeks of training followed by a week of self-study. The first 2 weeks of the program were for those with limited IT backgrounds to provide them with Linux, Windows, and networking fundamentals needed to succeed in the remainder of the course. Each week had about 25 to 30 hours of hands-on lab time, or about 200 hours overall lab time anticipated for the student at the completion of the cohort. To evaluate students as they progressed, many of the labs within the course were scored, as well as providing capstones at the end of each training session. In addition, students were administered a CYBRScore performance-based assessment at the end of week 2 and again in week 11. In week 2 and again in week 11, we assessed the team with CYBRScore assessments. These are job role assessments that use hands-on scenarios to measure the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the students to the NICE framework job role. We're looking to get a student to an apprentice level of proficiency within the construct of the NICE framework. Each of these assessments evaluates a day in the life of the cyber defense analyst in this case. First assessment was protocol analysis, which talks through Wireshark, PCAP, malware, exfil. The second one looking at network defense, snort rules, firewall changes, etc. A high-level view of the core components of the assessment is shown. It's a lot of data, so we'll take a look in detail at each one. Scoring is provided in real time upon completion of the assessment. Job roles like cyber defense analysts are broken into multiple sub-assessments that can be aggregated into a full profile view of the entire work role. Within the NICE framework, there's 125 knowledge, skills, abilities, and tasks that define the cyber defense analyst work role, and we want to take time to measure each of those. Competencies are rolled up and evaluated as part of the NICE framework and can be viewed at the individual or the cohort level. Are there specific components of the cohort that are struggling to understand, or that the instructor is maybe having issues getting across? This set of data can be rolled up based on looking at these competency levels. And lastly, we get a full individual learning plan and a KSA breakdown. So how did they score at that knowledge, skill, and ability level? And what potential training could we push them into if they're still not scoring at an appropriate level? Assessments are key to benchmarking the cohort and evaluating the training. Because these are individually based, ILPs can be generated, providing guidance to the learner and the instructor for training management. We had some great results from the cohort. 18 of 20 of the students achieved apprentice level or higher at the conclusion of the training. We had 2 distinct groups within the cohort, one comprised of about 10 upskillers and the other comprised of about 10 reskillers. We were able to move all candidates to a minimum of apprentice level of competency as part of the cohort, and we were able to push those with pre-existing skills into a higher level of mastery. With the use of an assessment tool, we were able to capture knowledge, skill, and ability data prior to and post-learning and use that to baseline any training issues. In addition, the assessment tool provided us with a way post-cohort to provide an outbound individual learning plan to each student, giving them additional future study guidance and direction as they departed the formal cohort. As we look at the data set that we collected, one of the key things that jumped out was the correlation between lab time and assessment improvement. Lots of lab time offered each week in training yielded lots of overall improvement associated with the assessment. So labs are key to practical hands-on improvement. It seems like something that should be obvious, but it's good to have data backing up that fact. Lastly, in takeaways, automated tools are needed to deliver at scale. Aptitude is one great measure for evaluating a cohort, but we believe attitude is just as important, ensuring that we're putting the right folks into the right job. Online delivery and real-time scoring provides the ability to assess a very large group quickly and to both get pre and post evaluation of the cohort. And more hands-on yields better job role performance. Thank you for your time. Please feel free to reach out with any questions.